Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Maria Semple is a book that I had been passing by back when I was still living in DC, and I kept going by it, and it was on the shelf where the employees could review books and recommend them, and I was always picking it up and putting it back down, and picking it up and putting it back down, mostly because it seemed like a plot I would enjoy, but then I would always see something else that I wanted to purchase more that had been on my list for longer, and I would go back to it later and think, you know, this seems enjoyable, but not quite enjoyable enough. So as you can tell by the stickers on the front, I did pick this up at my local library, and I just have to say, local libraries are great. I love the one here. It is huge. There is so much to pick from. Fantastic. You should go to yours. This book is about a girl named B. Branch. Her real name isn't B. It's something very long. I think she's called Balakrishna is her real name, but her parents just call her B. Everyone calls her B. And when she graduates from middle school, so she finishes the 8th grade, her parents told her, sort of jokingly, a couple years prior to that, that if she did really well all through middle school, then they could do whatever she wanted as sort of a middle school graduation present. So what she does is she chooses a trip to Antarctica, and she mentions it at dinner to her parents, you know, on the day that her grades come out, and she's very excited. She goes, "Hey, we're going to Antarctica!" And that's where this book really sets off. Bernadette is her mother. Bernadette Fox used to be a really, really promising architect when she was living in LA, and that's where she met B's father, Elgin Branch. And so they lived together for a while, and Bernadette was pretty accomplished, and then they moved to Seattle so her father, or B's father, could work for Microsoft, and Bernadette sort of withdrew from everybody and doesn't like human interaction and doesn't like talking to people or buying things or going out in public or anything like that. She really only just likes the things that she likes and her daughter and their dog named Ice Cream. So one can anticipate how a cruise to Antarctica with a boatload full of other people might sort of upset Bernadette, and she might not want to go. Meanwhile, there is a next-door neighbor named Audrey who is pretty much crazy. I really, really disliked Audrey for the majority of this book, and is very demanding of Bernadette, thinks she's weird and reclusive and doesn't like her at all. Their children go to school together, and I think she probably thinks that B is strange, and B really doesn't like Audrey because Audrey doesn't like her mother. So Bernadette is also dealing with that in the weeks leading up to the Antarctica trip, and it is at that time that Bernadette disappears. Doesn't leave any sort of note about where she's gone, where she's going, if she'll be back. She sort of just vanishes right out from under everyone's noses, and the search sort of continues from there for, you know, where'd you go, Bernadette? This book is not exactly told in your typical third-person fashion. It is told from B's perspective when B is narrating, which is not all the time. The majority of this book is a compilation of the letters and emails and reports and faxes and things that have been sent from one person to another, the different characters within the story, and they've all been compiled into this one book in order. And there's a heading above each one of them that tells you what it is. It's sort of like everyone took all the documents that were necessary to make this book and put them all together so we could read about the full story, and that's punctuated with pieces of B's narration. I wasn't exactly aware that that was the layout going into it, but I did really, really enjoy it. I think it makes the book make a lot of sense, but I definitely also appreciated B's narration. I think that's what really held the story together, and if that had not been present, I don't think that this would have worked quite so well as a style, even though the style was very, very connected and very, very interwoven. However, none of the characters to me were exactly likable. Bernadette is, of course, flighty. She doesn't really like people. She's very challenging to figure out. B is interesting. She has a couple issues. You don't really feel too much connection with her other than wanting everything to work out. Her father is an interesting person. He does some things in the book I'm not really on board with. Well, there are some auxiliary characters that you learn to just really, really hate. So none of these characters is particularly memorable. Occasionally one or two of them is funny, especially Bernadette. I think Bernadette, of course, is my favorite. The book is about her. She's got most of the limelight, but some of the other folks that aren't even auxiliary, they're sort of like tertiary characters. They're probably the funniest in the book. They make these small remarks about her and her family and her life, and I enjoyed that in the process of reading through the letters and the emails. That being said, I would give this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you've read it, let me know what you think down in the comments, if that style worked for you or any other thoughts you might have on it. I hope you're having lovely weeks and lovely lives, and we'll see you very soon.